crash and burn. The Emma Watson story. What happens when one of the most beloved child stars in history says she's been broken by Hollywood? When the girl who played Hermione Granger admits she felt caged, overwhelmed, and deeply disillusioned, what does that story look like today, in 2025? This is the untold story of Emma Watson. From global fame to retreat, from standards and expectations to personal boundaries, and the cost she's paid. From Hermione to Hollywood heavyweight. Emma Watson exploded into public consciousness at age 11, starring as Hermione Granger in Harry Potter. Over the years, she transitioned from child actor to fashion icon to activist, embracing feminism, sustainability, and social causes. Her early career seemed almost seamless. Beauty, intellect, and prestige all in one package. But those early years also built expectations and habits she would later find suffocating. By 2019, Watson starred in Little Women, a critically acclaimed film, but then something changed. She faded out of major screen roles. It wasn't obvious immediately. She'd done activism, brand work, public speaking, but film work? That almost halted. The break. Why she stepped back. You hear break from acting and think rest. But for Emma, it meant choosing sanity over status. In recent interviews, 2025, Watson has been very clear. Hollywood broke her. She described the industry as bone-breakingly painful. Competition, envy, rigid hierarchy, and the constant promotional push wore her down. She admitted she had become trapped in roles and public engagements she didn't fully control. The transaction costs, what fame demanded. Every applause had a cost, but the invisible ones hurt the most. Watson has spoken about how the demands of film promotion felt soul-destroying. It wasn't the art of acting she questioned, it was everything around it. Interviews, publicity tours, being asked how her identity, political opinions, or personal beliefs aligned with films she may only have done parts of. She also mentioned the pain of performing in a way that fit public expectations, being on the covers, upholding beauty standards, answering for causes. For many women in Hollywood, she said, there is a glamorization combined with intense pressure to always look, act, speak a certain way. Recent public fallout and the rolling rift. It's not just roles and red carpets. Sometimes your reputation becomes divided territory. A major stress point has been Watson's public relationship with J.K. Rowling. Since 2020, Watson has been one of the Harry Potter actors speaking out in support of trans rights. Rowling, on the other hand, has taken positions that many view as critical of transgender identity and trans activism. In a 2025 podcast, On Purpose with Jay Shetty, Watson said she still treasures her relationship with Rowling despite their disagreements. She expressed that she regrets the public hurt, but also wants to persist in advocating for what she believes is right. Rowling responded sharply. She called Watson ignorant of how ignorant she is, accusing Watson of privileged detachment from real experiences. This conflict has added emotional burden, being publicly critiqued by someone who was once a central figure in her career, and having to define her stance without burning bridges, or at least not completely. Legal trouble and public slip-ups. Even Emma Watson isn't immune to small public mistakes, and they sometimes sting louder than big wins. In 2024, Watson was caught speeding in Oxford. She was driving at 38 mph in a 30 mph zone. Because she already had 9 penalty points on her license, this offense triggered a 6-month driving ban. A fine of about 145 was imposed. It's not just that the legal penalty was there, it's the visibility. For someone who stepped back from cameras, having this become widespread news added to her discomfort. She spoke in interviews about how embarrassed she felt with the coverage. She described shame, the feeling that it was everywhere. Reclaiming control. What she's doing now? Sometimes walking away isn't giving up, it's holding on in a new way. Since stepping back from acting, her last major film being Little Women in 2019, Watson has shifted her focus. She's been pursuing a master's in creative writing at Oxford University since 2024. She's also diving into creative, entrepreneurial, and socially conscious work on her own terms. She co-founded a sustainable gin brand with her brother, launched projects in fashion brand direction, and taken roles, promotional and creative, only when she can align with her values. The cost of crash and burn. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic. It can look like silence. What do we mean by crash and burn when it comes to Emma Watson? Not a scandal, not a fall from grace, with allegations of wrongdoing, but maybe a burnout, a collapse of expectation, identity, and voice. She has spoken about how much she hoped for roles and relationships to work like her early years. Family on set, lifelong friendships, creative collaboration. But discovered instead a world driven by visibility, image, and competition. That conflict between her values and what the industry demanded seems to have eroded something. What the media misses. When headlines call it breakdown or scandal, what they often ignore is the voice underneath. The media often frames Watson's story in sound bites. Step back from acting, creative control, beauty standards. But less attention is paid to her reflections. That some of the greatest pain came from pretending friendships existed for publicity. From being forced into spokesperson roles for work she didn't direct or produce. From being judged for alignment of beliefs and causes she supports. Also, people miss that Watson isn't done. She hasn't fallen, she's paused. What's next? Possible paths forward. Maybe her next scene isn't on a red carpet, it's behind a desk, behind a pen, behind the scenes. Emma Watson could return to acting, but only under terms that give her more creative voice. Or perhaps she pivots more strongly into writing, directing, producing, or other artistic endeavors that give autonomy. Her studies in creative writing hint at deeper interest in shaping stories, not just living them. Final thoughts. Crash, burn, rebuild. The thing about fire isn't always the crash, it's what comes after. Emma Watson's story isn't about downfall or failing. It isn't about collapsing in public, but about having parts of her broken by an industry that expects perfection and performs persona. It's about being caught between fame's demands and her own sense of self. And it's about choosing to step back, claim space, and try to heal, even when that means the world may misunderstand. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into celebrities' lives beyond the spotlight. Drop a comment. Do you think Emma Watson will return to acting? Under what terms? Let's talk about what real recovery looks like. Public persona versus private boundaries.